Arnwine Esquire, guests and supporters are their own and are independent of any organization, entity. Nothing said on the show or any of its platforms constitutes a client-attorney relationship or serves as legal advice counsel. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to Igniting Change, its platforms, or the show's host. It's time now for Igniting Change, a weekly provocative and empowering program where you, the listener, can ignite change. Now here's your host, Barbara Arnwine.
Get up, stand up.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Igniting Change. Oh, are we ready for you today? So much has been happening since our last show, and we have so much to talk about today because we have a really special guest on, and we're so excited that this guest is able to join us today on our show to talk about all that's been happening. Yes, you've been watching the news. Yes, you've been grinding your teeth. Yes, you've been talking to your friends. Yes, you've been going through all of it. We all have. Well, we're going to talk about it today, and what in the world can we do about it? You know that is what Igniting Change lives for, is to have these kind of discussions. And you know I got to bring on my best, most amazing lawyer in the country. You know he is the chair of the board of the Transformative Justice Coalition, innovative, bold, courageous. You know he is excellence personified, none other than my co-host, the mighty Daryl D. Jones. Hey, Daryl.
Hey, Barbara, it must be noon. It must be Tuesday. Must be noon Eastern Standard Time, because we're talking about igniting change. And, Barbara, my goodness, talking about igniting change, it seems like someone has lit a firecracker in the Democratic Party, and they're trying to figure out where all the pieces are and what's going on and what should be happening and how do we put Humpty Dumpty back together again. This has just been an incredible week. The shows have been on fire, talking about the Senate Minority Leader, Chuck Schumer, and what he should do. And Barbara, you know, this is just an incredible setup because, you know, to have somebody as a guest that's one of the people that's had the opportunity to see the sausage being made from inside the factory can certainly give us an idea and an understanding of where we are and what we need to do to get out of the mess that we're in, Barbara.
Absolutely. And we could not be more happy to be joined by one of our nation's top political analysts, top authors, top democracy specialists. He hosts a podcast called The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. He spent his 21st birthday in a District of Columbia jail cell after being arrested in an anti-apartheid protest at the South African Embassy in 1986. He was on stage in Cape Town in 1990 when Nelson Mandela delivered his historic speech after his release from 27 years in a South African prison. He earned his Master of Arts degree in theology and then a law degree in 1993, served as National Field Director for the Rainbow Push Coalition. You know that's our partner group, a role that included leading the campaign to register millions of new voters. In 1995, the 30-year-old Jackson became the 91st African-American elected to Congress. Until 2012, he represented Illinois' 2nd Congressional District, which includes parts of Chicago's South Side and Cook County suburbs. Welcome back to Igniting Change, Reverend Jesse Jackson Jr.
Hey, Barbara. Hey, Daryl. How are you?
We are hanging in here because so much is happening. Woo! It's like life.
Thank you for having me back on. Thank you for having me back on Igniting for Change. I look forward to it.
All right, now, you know, Igniting Change loves these weeks of work Well, we just want to remind everyone we are still doing the No DEI, No Buy campaign. Don't you dare forget that we are playing. They've been talking about the, quote, retail sales are down, Daryl. Did you hear that? And they're like, we don't know. It didn't meet the forecast. We're not sure what's going on. Why? It may be the tariffs that consumers are scared, right? They're saying anything but the fact that folks are saying, hell no, we're not going to buy a darn thing until you straighten this country up. Right there.
You got that. Oh, you got that right, Barbara. And we know that Target is feeling the pain. We know that all those stores that are going against the DEI movement are feeling the pain, and we've got to continue because it's not just about them feeling the pain. It's about us being recognized for our worth, our value, and how we're going to be respected. That's one of the bigger parts of this whole movement, Barbara.
I know, and Reverend Jackson, come on now,
I think
the salty, right?
I totally agree with you, Barbara, and I totally agree with Daryl on this. Let me just share with you that it's also strategically very important the method by which we are fighting back. I had a really interesting talk not long ago with Pastor Jamal Bryant. Who was sharing with me his thoughts on the fight back and the resistance. And he said, we've never really confronted a government like this. We've never seen Donald Trump and Pam Bondi and the weaponized Justice Department and the absolute control of the military by a U.S. president. And so some of the tactics that we've used in the past, including mass public protests, marches, the fear, of course, is that any leader that organizes such a march will also be targeted, but also that the government could actually turn the army on nonviolent protesters. And so we are under the constraints of having to come up with methods of protest and resistance where they can't put their finger on a particular leader, where they can't shoot bullets randomly into a crowd with the possibility that the soldiers who launched those bullets could get a presidential pardon. And so this idea of collective withdrawal of our enthusiasm from retailers is something they can't just put their fingers on. It's leaders that they can't just put their fingers on. And I just think it's an extraordinary tactic for such a time as this.
It's an interesting tactic because, what's happening, what we're seeing right now is that people are coming out in a multifold of ways, right? Folks are out there, I love them, they're out there picketing and raising all kind of hell at Tesla dealerships. And you've been seeing them, not only are they doing it in the United States of America, they're doing it all over the world. They're doing it.
But surprisingly, but tactically speaking, he's not likely to turn the military on white folks protesting Tesla or protesting. Yeah, but he's looking for a black crowd to turn the military on.
Well, let's talk about this because, April 5th, there's going to be a national day of action throughout this country. Everybody mark your calendar right now. You heard me, April 5th. There's going to be a national day of action with a huge gathering, march here in Washington, D.C., and with marches and actions all over the country. And God knows, most likely what we've been seeing is that the international community's been, leading in a lot of this, that it's very possible that there will be international components. And we're going to talk about that in some future, in our next show probably, about what's going to be happening on April 5th. But folks are turning out. The reality is that black folks are losing their jobs. I mean, I am so mad at all of my friends who have lost their jobs. People, be very clear that everybody's losing jobs. It's not just, somebody who was in DEI. It is everybody. I have friends who are working for the Consumer Protection Bureau. They're out of jobs. Lawyers, lawyers, some of the best lawyers in the country, have been kicked to the curb. I have people who were working, in the education department, people who were working in the housing, people working everywhere who were just summarily let go without any reason when they were high performers. So I'm glad that today you might have seen, everyone, the news that 25,000 people are being returned to their jobs, reinstated right now, not because of some great awakening in the mind of Donald Trump or some righteousness by Elon Musk. Don't expect that. What it is that the courts have ordered it. And the courts have, and everybody thought they were going to defy it because they didn't meet the deadline that was set by the courts for yesterday, but they did announce today that they're restating Daryl and Reverend Jackson, all 25,000 of those people who were, quote, probationary employees. They won't just admit the truth, will they? Will they, Reverend Jackson? Will they admit the truth that when they saw probationary employees, they just thought those were people who weren't performing well, that they didn't even take time to read and understand what probationary employees mean in the federal government? Come on.
Of course they're not going to state the truth, but this is what we have to know and understand. In 1984 and 88, Dad talked about organizing a rainbow coalition. In 2025, I think we have to look at the idea of a pain-bow coalition. There's so much suffering as a result of Donald Trump's first 50 days in the White House that by organizing people around their suffering and their pain is creating a different kind of coalition that must occur in the present, it must occur in the now, and I think the people are overwhelmingly sharing with you what it means to miss a mortgage payment, what it means to miss a heating payment, what it means to not have air conditioning in the summertime in the District of Columbia, in the sweltering heat this coming August that Dr. King talked about in August of 1963, I think it was. Yes, it was. And so it's going to be sweltering, and air conditioning bills have to be paid, and mortgages have to be met, rent has to be paid. And the idea that the president and this administration is summarily dismissing people without any kind of due process, without any kind of cause, not just in the public sector, but the economy and the stock market are showing that there's going to be some recessive activities in the private sector as well. And so this pain is truly going to be shared. Donald Trump says he doesn't think it's going to last very long, but you and I know that's not going to be true.
And Daryl and Reverend Jackson, that's such a powerful point, Reverend Jackson, because I've been hearing from people that somebody told me recently that around them, all these for sale signs have manifested in their areas, that 3,000 homes just recently in this metropolitan area have gone up for sale suddenly because people, have lost their jobs. Don't forget, everyone, that the federal government is one of the largest employers of black people. Don't be telling me black people don't have a voice in what's happening right now. Don't tell me that we can just sit back and let others do the work. This is our fight also. We are losing our livelihood. We are losing our jobs. And it's affecting everything that we know as life in this country, not just in the D.C. metro area. Because be clear that even though you have a heavy concentration of federal workers here, that it's only 20% of the federal workforce. The federal workforce is spread all over the nation, as you have seen. People in Georgia screaming, people in Oklahoma crying, people crying everywhere because of the impact of this cruelty that's being dealt to them with this administration. Woo, woo, woo. Daryl, I'm gone. There's just so much going on.
Oh, no. Yeah, and you're absolutely right, Barbara. There's a lot going on. But, Congressman Jackson, one of the things that happened this past